been 2 months since the finals ended, and here's the regular season opener.
Wow. You scream, give me it.
Oh, Westbrook, the step back. Hammers it down. Attacking the rack with a vengeance.
Oh, the kid just split everybody. What a play.
Washington second and the third.
That's what we want to see. Towns puts it on the deck, gets to the rim, and attacks.
Around.
How many times does it roll around the rim?
Morant off the backboard, and he slams. A lob ahead to Collins. What a finish.
Tatum and Antetokounmpo, the superstar. Step back three on the way. Oh, it banks in.
They get the steal. Barnes for the lead. Couldn't punch it. Tipped up. No! And in. Will it count? Buddy. Ball. Call. Game. Run, Buddy, run.
Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols. I will be joined by NBA champ Richard Jefferson and 7-time NBA champ Robert Horry shortly. But they're not the only guests stopping by today. Coming up, I sat down with Luka Doncic ahead of his Christmas Day primetime matchup with the Lakers. Spoke a little bit about what it's like to be the odds-on MVP favorite in just his 3rd season. Stick around for that. But first, I want to welcome in our special guest, Commissioner Adam Silver. Welcome back to The Jump.
Thank you. By the way, those highlights were pretty good for 2 nights so far.
Yeah, not bad, the NBA. It's been such a quiet 24 hours, really, Adam. I was worried we wouldn't have enough to talk about, but let's just jump straight in with James Harden, because you guys decided to fine him $50,000 for violating COVID protocols earlier this week. And then this morning, ESPN reported James will have to isolate for 4 days total, but he will be available for the Rockets' next game, which is Saturday. Now, the 4 days was determined by the league's medical experts, but above and beyond that, you guys could have decided to suspend him. Why fine instead of suspend?
The precedent is that discipline gets ratcheted up, and it's Christmas. It was a first offense. Frankly, to your point, the $50,000 is the limit of my authority under the collective bargaining agreement. And what would have happened? I mean, in a way, he got lucky, because if the game had taken place last night as scheduled and he were unavailable because of his own actions, he would have missed a game and a paycheck. And so it would have, in practice, or ultimately have turned out to be a much larger sanction. But a little bit of luck there. I'd say also, we're just beginning these protocols, and it seemed fair in the first instance, but it's Christmas.
Certainly appreciate your holiday spirit. And I understand you have discretion here. It's not the first time in even just the past couple weeks, though, that Harden was very visibly partying in clubs without a mask. And I know the first time he hadn't reported to training camp yet, but he was supposed to have. It's not that camp hadn't started. Every other Rockets player had to abide by COVID protocol rules that same week. Why didn't you consider James to be under those rules at that time?
He wasn't, because just as you said, he hadn't reported to training camp yet. I'd only say, Rachel, I think that anyone who's in a position of meting out discipline as I am can't succumb to frontier justice. I mean, I understand what Twitter would like to see happen here, but union, there are rules, and my job is to follow the rules. I mean, in this case, putting aside prior conduct, this was a first violation for James under these new protocols. And as I said, it was the limit of my fining authority. It didn't seem appropriate to suspend him for that act alone. And as I said, had the game been played and he had been out because of that conduct, the required quarantine, he would have missed a paycheck. And so, as I said, we're learning.
Look, it's a thorny, complicated situation, not just for the league office, but for the Rockets themselves. It's been a rocky month overall in Houston. I know James has not publicly come out and said the 2 words, trade me. But regardless, I just want to know how you feel about one of your most high-profile players, a guy the Rockets are paying more than $500,000 each and every time he plays a game, so publicly and repeatedly acting against the best interests of the team.
Of course, my reaction is guys have contracts. They should honor them. And to the extent that there are disputes between teams and players, they should be handled behind closed doors. I mean, look, this isn't the first time you've had a star player who's expressed dissatisfaction with some aspect of his situation. I mean, it's been part of this league since it's early days, but now everything gets amplified because of social media, digital media, the job that you and your colleagues do. So we recognize that, and it's not what you want to see as part of the league. And you hope that James will bear down and be a professional, and he'll honor to the T every aspect of his contract. But these issues need to be worked out, and I think it's now, of course, been compounded by this most recent violation. So it's a highly unusual time, and I think we have to take that into account. But we also count on everyone settling down now that regular season has begun again, and focusing on basketball.
Yeah, I mean, we did have those great highlights right at the top of the interview, and last night was the first full slate of games of the season. It was unfortunate that on day 2, basically, Thunder Rockets had to be postponed because the Rockets didn't have the minimum 8 players required to proceed. Can you just take me through what yesterday afternoon and evening were like for you as the league's medical group sorted all this out?
Well, again, we're following, as you said, a panel of doctors and scientists, and this is really there's an aspect of this that has nothing to do with discipline, because as we all know, I mean, there are violations of our rules, but then there's also living life outside of a bubble that we were in this summer. And if you're living your life just like every other American, whether it's because you have children in school, partners that are going to their jobs, or for that matter, going to the grocery store, visiting relatives, there's a chance that you're going to get infected. So we recognized going into the season, I said it, that we knew we were going to have cases, just as baseball saw cases and the NFL is working through those cases now. And so once, there was a confluence of a bunch of circumstances. There was James's high-profile violation, but then there was a series of incidents with the team, some involving violations, some not. And at the end of the day, our medical professionals have to go player by player and look at the particular situation of each player. Obviously, if someone's infected, that's a quick decision to isolate and separate them. But then there's the contact tracing, and then there's a question of what other players or team personnel did that infected person come in contact with, and that takes time. And one of the real difficulties in our league, unlike the NFL, of course, is we're playing essentially every other day. So there's not a lot of time to work through these issues. So that's what yesterday was like. And also say that as I mentioned earlier, we're going to learn as we go. I mean, just as you recall, Rachel, having been down in the bubble, we started with one set of protocols, but then we continually adjusted them as we were learning more. And I think it's going to be the same situation here. And it may even mean that with our Players Association, as we go, all these rules have to be negotiated, but we'll sit down with them and say, all right, these aspects aren't working. And I can say to a player, everyone wants this to work. I've said before, people want to work. Right. NBA players want to work. Everyone in our system, we account for tens of thousands of jobs. I mean, it's not just the players and the coaches. It's our broadcasting partners like yourself. It's those in the arenas. Even when the arenas aren't open to fans, it takes hundreds of people to stand up these arenas for every game. 6 arenas we started with fans in. So it's we're a huge industry, and we recognize that trying to operate in a pandemic is difficult. But we'll work through these issues in a way. I mean, you never would have liked to see what happened on the second day of the season, but there may be a bit of a silver lining, and that is it's really refocused everyone's attention. I think we were all so used to operating inside a bubble. I think there may have been, for a lot of the people involved, sort of just a sense of safety that can exist. And everyone has to recognize that, I keep telling people, it wasn't the test that kept people safe in the bubble, because we're testing daily now, just as we did in the bubble. What kept everyone safe were the quarantines that were required before you went into the bubble, and then all of the requirements once you were there. Playing outside of a bubble, this presents a host of different issues, and we're unfortunately just going to have to learn as we go here.
I can't even imagine how many times your phone rang yesterday. Do you have a count there for us? I mean, it must have been pretty crazy leading up to that moment of saying, okay, let's postpone.
Yeah, I'd only say, no count, but in addition, obviously I have a fantastic group of colleagues who are working through these issues with me, in many cases literally around the clock, because of when test results are coming in, because follow-up on situations, dealing with team personnel, their doctors, our doctors. And so I think it was for all of us a wake-up call, not that we didn't know it, but it's especially until we're at a point where there's vaccinations available to people in our community, and that's probably a ways off. Every day is going to be presenting new issues.
I want to switch gears a little bit because you were asked earlier this week about the possibility of expansion, and for the first time in years, you didn't shut the door on it. Adam, you know the glee you caused in Seattle with those comments. I will ask you, how likely would you say expansion is in the near future?
Well, what I said, honestly, was not all that different than what I've said in the past. What I said is it's inevitable that we'll expand at some point. And when asked about Seattle specifically, Rachel, I, of course, was in the league when the Sonics were in town. We didn't make a secret out of the fact that we hated to leave Seattle, but at the time we left, it was clear that Key Arena, the then Key Arena, was not at NBA specifications, and there were no plans on the table to build a new arena in Seattle. And that was 12 years ago or so. Now we're at the point where there is a new arena, in essence, a rebuilt Key Arena that's come online, NHL team going into Seattle. So you now have the state-of-the-art arena that didn't exist back then. And I'd say in terms of expansion, it's been a long time since the league expanded. It's not on the front burner. I mean, we're not about to expand at this moment, as you can imagine, just as to your earlier that are occupying us around the clock. Expansion is not on the top of the list, but we'll turn back to it at some point. And I've said, we loved when we were in Seattle. We've had incredible fans there, incredible, I think, 40-year history of having a team in that market. And there's no doubt there's enormous support there. So at the right time, I think the team owners will turn back to that issue.
So Adam, you got to help me out here. If I'm going to place a bet in Vegas on whether there's going to be an expansion team in the next 5 years of the NBA, how good should I feel about that bet?
I can't even believe you're talking about wagering on this show, Rachel. That's all I'm going to say.
Never, not in this establishment. All right, the All-Star Game gained a lot of momentum last season in Chicago due to some of the great rule changes, right? That Elam ending was so fun. Playing a game this year seems extremely complicated given all the COVID protocols. You've officially given up the hotel rooms and arena reservations in Indianapolis. So what is the plan for All-Star this year?
There is no plan at the moment. I mean, again, because we knew coming into the season we were going to be learning a lot. As you know, because we knew there might be some disruptions in the season, we split the schedule in two halves, which is something we've never done in our history before. So we have a schedule through early March when the natural break would come in our season, not the All-Star break that had previously been planned earlier in February. So as you said, we gave up those hotels and those dates in Indianapolis. So now we still have an opening potentially to play a game. We'd absolutely still love to play that game. I know the players would as well. Our plan is to still go forward and select All-Stars. I think that's very important. And we'll see. Again, one thing I've learned throughout this pandemic is it's virtually impossible to predict even a month ahead. As you know, before we went into Orlando for the bubble, we had the lowest case rate in Florida, then we had one of the highest when we got there. Now we're dealing with what seems like a new surge in cases, and that was not something we obviously knew at the point we planned to restart this week. And I think, fingers crossed on the vaccine. That is, as the vaccine gets rolled out and we start to see, societal adoption of the vaccine and the ability to bring more fans into buildings, presumably at the point that it's appropriate for players and coaching staffs to get vaccinated, that'll happen as well. And so it may open up possibilities by March that I can't even contemplate right now. So we're going to turn back to that, but right now we're just holding the dates.
So Adam, earlier this week, you said it was your expectation that players would stand for the national anthem. What has changed since the bubble in that regard? And how will the league react if a player still does choose to kneel?
What's changed since the bubble, of course, in Orlando, in a unified fashion, players, coaches, referees chose to take a knee for the national anthem. And throughout the preseason, we had one game in which players kneeled during the preseason. So far in the regular season, all the players have stood. And it's my expectation that players will stand for the national anthem. I mean, it's been part of the tradition of this league since the early 1980s. I recognize that there are appropriate times for protest, which is why the league, in essence, stood down this summer. On the other hand, number one, it's awkward to be put in a position to force people to stand for the national anthem. Obviously, that's a failure to start with, if that's ultimately where we are. But number two, I'd say I think it's an important tradition as part of this country. We've come through a very difficult period where the country feels very divided. Obviously, those tensions haven't gone away. So there's very few things that collective moments where we all can feel we're unified. And I think the national anthem is one of those moments. So it's my hope that our players will continue to choose and that this tradition will remain part of the league. But again, this is something that we've discussed with the Players Association. It's become part of our collective bargaining agreement right now. And so if there were ever going to be changes, it would be something we'd need to discuss together. But at least for me, especially as we go into these holidays, I will say that it moves me to see people standing in unison for the anthem. There's these very few moments in our lives when people can come together, and it's my hope that our national anthem will continue to be one of those moments.
Well, this is certainly a time of year we need as much coming together as possible. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Happy holidays. I hope your phone tonight rings a little bit less than last night and that you get to enjoy the season with your family. We really appreciate the time.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, as always, for all the coverage.
Thank you. All right, coming up, guys, we're going to discuss the best-case scenario for James Harden and the Rockets. Richard Jefferson and big shot Robert Horry are going to join the show to discuss. Stick around. You're watching The Jump. Alongside Richard Jefferson, and we are thrilled to welcome 7-time NBA champion, big shot Robert Horry to the Jump family this season as an analyst.
That's a picture. He didn't want to go for 8, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. Robert, welcome. We love you've been here as a guest, but now you're officially part of the family.
Yeah.
Thank you.
High fives, everybody.
Finally, someone that's respected on set from a player standpoint.
To balance you out.
Yeah, 100%.
That's really what's important for us. You guys just heard my conversation with Commissioner Adam Silver. We talked about the James Harden situation. Robert, what has been your reaction, my former Houston Rockets friend, to Harden's initial trade request and, frankly, his actions since then, which led to a $50,000 fine yesterday?
He's been very fortunate that the Rockets have sort of bent over backwards for all his requests, so he could be returned that favor. And he's going out and being, as like everyone's saying, unprofessional. And it's kind of disappointing in the sense that he doesn't realize that he's looked upon as a leader of this team. Not just a leader of the team, a leader of the NBA. So people are eyeballing him and want to say, hey, how are you going to handle this situation? There's so many times that athletes want to say, oh, I don't want to be here and have situations a la me and having a situation with Danny Ainge. But, you have to be professional. I hate how I handled my situation, but for me, it ended up really great. It brought me to the Los Angeles Lakers, and I won 3 championships. But with him, that's been done. So he needs to be calm and say, because he has to think like this. It's hard to trade me because I asked for the max contract. I'm making $40 million. And in this day and age, you just can't go where you want to go when you're making that much money.
Yeah, no, look, that's a great point. And I'm so glad growing up in Phoenix, I'm glad that you're going to throw the towel throw. No, because look, we as players, every player down the line has done something that you're like, okay, that was a mistake. That was unprofessional. Myself included. Everyone has. Like, that's just part of doing it for an extended period of time. But James is not helping himself. He's just not. I don't care what he says. I don't care what the beef is. We know you want out. The Houston Rockets are shopping you. So your best thing that you can do right now is be as professional as possible. Or else it's going to take longer to get you out of there, right? Like, you don't have to be a model citizen for Houston, but you do have to be a model citizen as far as, like, how the league is viewing you to make this trade easier. Yeah, and look, I think his trade value is still going to be high enough. He's James Harden. Yeah. He's been top 5 in MVP the last 7 years. Players like that just don't become available. But that being said, you do have a responsibility to your teammates, right? John Wall, Boogie Cousins, James Harden, they have no beef with each other, right? They like each other. They're friends. Yes. And at some point, you are making these 2 guys in particular who are finally getting back into the NBA after extremely grueling injury rehab, not get off to the start they deserve, frankly. And I wish I could see a little bit more accountability between teammates. Just because you have special privileges as a superstar But that's not. But that right there is not special privilege.
Well, no,
that is just being an ass. Like that's just like what you're doing right there, given all of the things that are going on, everything that our country is dealing with, everything that's going on in our sport. Like this was the first game that is now postponed. Like you're being an ass. Like what you did in Vegas, okay, that's fine. You're here now, that's fine. But then you go out. You're not allowed to go to these places. You know the rules, and it doesn't matter if you behave like this. They're not going to allow this in Miami or in Philly or any other place. So why do it now?
All right, we will keep discussing. Up next, it's also, a make or miss league. We've got the videos to...
The Lakers have won. Oh, they open for three. Oh, unbelievable. This guy is off the charts.
It's a make or miss league. And in my case, it's a make or Swiss league.
I love it. Make royalty. Okay, follow me here. Nuggets up 2 with the ball. 13 left. MPJ throwing it away. The Kings get a bucket in transition. Nuggets next possession.
Literally watching this game, and I had no idea. I was like yelling, oh no, look, what? Oh no, HB's gonna dunk it.
No, HB. Shot block, but Buddy Hield is there for the game-winning putback.
Go, Buddy!
Run, Buddy, run!
Run, Forrest, run!
HB, I thought you had it, and then you jumped and ran out of talent.
That's good.
There's nothing worse than that.
I'm glad the guy didn't give up. The offense,
keep
never
running.
give up. Never give up.
Chris Spalding. Check out this defense by Zion, an OG Anunoby. Rob, do you think Zion, what do you think he would be in your era?
Charles Barkley. There's no doubt. He's Charles Barkley. If you look at him, he is Charles Barkley. Like I said.
I ain't got nothing
But you know
to
what?
say
Think about
that,
Zion. Zion is an incredible player. Once he's able to, knock down some jump shots like Charles did, he's going to be a man, a beast in the league. Woo!
No minutes restriction, Richard, for him this year.
No minute restriction?
Nope.
Yeah. Until now.
Missed decisions. Let's stay in Phoenix. This shot by Josh Richardson.
Phoenix.
It is ridiculous. How did this go down? Our shot expert, Rob, how did this go down?
Ooh.
That's a lot of rotation right there, a lot of luck. That's one of those little leprechauns on top of your shoulder right there. But, when you're a shooter, you get rolls like this, right, Jeff?
You got shot. You got him like
that.
That. That wasn't me. That wasn't me. Like, you saw that pull up, I would have kept going. I tried to jump and dunk it from there.
Run, Richard, run
Run,
like
Richard.
that. Make fun. J.A. on the break.
Oh.
Ooh.
See, this is more my window.
Just ooped it to himself, T-Mac style.
Yeah, I couldn't do this. But...
At what point, okay, so tell us though, Richard, at what point do you think he actually decided he was going to attempt it? Because look at Tracy. Tracy knew he was going to do it.
Tracy knew he was going to do it.
Game that he wanted to do it.
Yeah, Tracy knew he was going to do this. He was just waiting for the opportunity. But Tracy is also 6'9". Ja is like 6'3.5". That's what makes it even more impressive. I saw Jamal Murray do this last year, man. Like when these guards have the ability to do this is next level.
When they get caught in the air like that and be able to adjust, because he was going to pass that. I can't pass it. He adjusts. Yes, he adjusts in the air. I tried this one time in high school. My high school coach put me on the bench and never put me in the game. So I'm like, he was difficult like that.
He knew what he was doing.
And high school kids all over the country are watching John Morant this morning going, I got to go practice that.
Don't practice that, kid.
It's time for another edition of Something, Nothing, or, yes, folks, everything. The Bucks-Celtics game last night, living up to the hype. Giannis had 35 and 13. Chris Middleton had 27 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists. But the Celtics prevailed thanks to Jaylen Brown. He was a monster in this game, 33 points, and Jason Tatum, 30-piece, including, oh yes, he called game, the bank shot game winner over not just two-time MVP, but Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, Richard, is Tatum and Brown's combined 63 points last night, remember no Kemba Walker for a while, something, nothing, or everything?
I think it is something. I think it is something because you wonder when you're missing Kemba Walker, that's a 20-point-a-game scorer, when you don't have Gordon Hayward, who was an 18-point-a-game scorer, where are we going to pick up the slack? And you know that Jason Tatum and you know that Jaylen Brown are improving. They're still young, so they're still improving. So to see them come out against a very good Milwaukee team, a very good defensive and like a veteran team, and go out there and give them, a 60 ball, that means that they're going to have enough offensive firepower to kind of, withstand this little break without Kemba.
I definitely think it's something. It reminded me of the big three that the Celtics had. And I'm throwing Rondo in there, and now you take Smart and put Smart in the mix.
Okay.
You got big three right there. Who needs that other guy? Who needs him? Let me get more shots. I know what Brown's saying. Brown said, because we know Tatum get his, but Brown's like, who needs that guy? Let me get more shots.
Okay, I'm with it.
We like Kemba. I like Kemba.
I like Kemba
him
too.
on that team.
But like, who needs him right now?
But I
I'm
will say,
Jalen.
look, Danny Ainge said a couple years ago after Kyrie left, he said, Danny said, I blame myself for what happened with Kyrie. He said, I crowded the roster too much. I didn't think about it in the same way. Those young guys now certainly have room to operate, and they went for it last night. All right, let's move on to the Wizards and Sixers. Doc won his first game as Sixers head coach, and Embiid scoring 29 points. He snatched 14 boards, guys. Bradley Beal still looking good, 31, even in the losing effort. And Russell Westbrook, see if this is a surprise. A triple-double.
In
Shocking,
3 quarters.
right? And just in 3 quarters. Robert, was Westbrook's triple-double in his Wizards debut something, nothing, or everything?
This was everything, because here's a guy that people said, went to Houston, didn't work out in Houston. How are you going to be on another team? He's going to be Russell Westbrook. He's going to be a triple-double machine. And I think it's going to take some time for the guys to understand who he is, and they're going to run the floor with him, set up in the corners for 3, because we know Russell's going to attack that basket like he always does. And this is something to me, because it's going to make this team a lot better and a lot more scarier.
Yeah, now understand, I think that this is something also, because this is no disrespect to John Wall, perennial all-star. I think Russell Westbrook is like a better version of him. Triple-double, same type of intensity, gets out on the break, gets everyone involved. And so I think with Russell there, and he's been healthy for the most part over the last 5 or 6 years, which was an issue for John Wall. So I think having him out there with that squad, with Bradley Beal, they were very, very close to winning this game. It came down to the last 30 seconds. So I have the Wizards as a playoff team this year.
Look, I grew up in the D.C. area, and it's with so much pride I tell you that in franchise history, no player had ever had a triple-double in their debut on opening night. It's a rich history, guys, let me tell you. All right, the Hawks, so he did it. The Hawks blew out the Bulls 124-104 last night. Atlanta had 7 players in double figures, with Trae Young leading the way, 37 points. The Hawks setting new franchise record, 83 points in the first half. Robert, is the Hawks' 83-point season opening half something, nothing, or everything?
I gotta say nothing. It's the Bulls. Come on, man. It's the Bulls. This is not the Bulls with Michael Jordan and all these guys. This is the Bulls who don't know if they're coming or going right now. Yeah. Because you got guys that don't want to be there. You got guys trying to figure out who they are. It's just a system right now. New coaches, small preseason. This is the time they're trying to figure out who they are, what they wanted to be. And basically, they have no identity. And we know by looking at the Hawks, these guys can score. They have a really prolific scoring team. But this is the Bulls at the end of the day.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's something. Only because I think the Hawks need to get off to a good start, right? They got to get off to a good start, establish themselves. You don't want to go 0 for 5. You don't want to lose to the Bulls and then have a tougher schedule go on. So beat the teams that you're supposed to beat if you want to make the playoffs. So you look at with Gallinari, with Bogdanovic, with all of these guys, that's going to open things up for Trae. You can't load in on him. You can't double team. And then all of a sudden you see his efficiency go through the roof. And so I think it's a something because it gets them going in the right direction, letting them know who they're going to be.
I'm clapping there because I love the vet mentality. Robert was like, I've seen everything. I've done everything. Let me tell you. Nothing. All right, coming up, you'll see my conversation with Luka Doncic, who is set to make his Christmas Day debut in our marquee ABC matchup tomorrow. Don't make a move. We'll be right back. NBA on Christmas Day tradition continues. Look at that nice snow. Not here in LA. The 5 best gifts anyone could ask for. Noon Eastern, ESPN Pelicans Heat. Then over on ABC, Warriors Bucks, followed by Nets Celtics and Mavs Lakers on ABC and ESPN. We cap the day with Clippers Nuggets, 10:30 Eastern. Richard Jefferson on the call for 2 of those. Amazing matchups, all available on the ESPN app. All right, guys, I sat down recently with one of the headliners of our Christmas Day quintuple header, Luka Doncic. Asked him about being the MVP frontrunner in Vegas, only his 3rd year in the league, and his expectations for the Mavs this season. Check it.
God rest ye merry, gentle Mary. God rest ye merry.
Doncic looking for that dagger.
Gorgeous move from Luka Doncic. What can he do?
Luka, this is your first Christmas Day game in the NBA. What are you looking forward to about it?
Oh, yeah, very excited. This is my first one, and we play the champions. That's why I'm excited too. So it's going to be a fun day, fun game, and a lot of people are going to be watching. So I hope that it's going to be a great game.
Do you have a favorite Christmas memory from growing up?
When you were a little kid, the presents you got, I think that was my favorite part in the morning. So I couldn't sleep.
This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers.
So this year, instead of getting presents under the tree for Christmas, you are getting the defending champion LA Lakers. The first time you played LeBron James, you were only 19 years old. We've seen the picture of you standing outside the locker room waiting for him to sign a jersey. So much has changed since then.
Obviously, I remember the whole first game. It was very special. It's something I remember a long time.
Luka for the tie, he got it!
Now it's way different than the first game, First game against against the Lakers, so it's obviously different. But I think now it's still special, but you just different situation, you're just trying to win.
Yeah, good luck to you too. Yeah, well, keep getting better.
LeBron recently made an interesting revelation about you. Take a listen.
Luka is one of my favorite players in the NBA today. When Luka was going through his contract negotiations with Nike, I wanted to begin Team LeBron and have Luka as my first signing. And I don't even know if Luka knows this, but he would know it now. I want him to be my first guy because I just love what he stands for. I love everything about him.
A couple of my friends sent me that. When I saw the video, that was the time I learned about that he wanted to do a LeBron team and be in the first signing. So I didn't know it before. So I just say this is pretty special.
He's got to get new brakes on the car after that step back by Luka.
You have one of the greatest to ever play the game fawning over you. You have shoe companies fighting over you. You have the Mavericks team built around you. You never seem to show the pressure that all of that brings. How do you manage that?
I mean, as I always say, there's been pressure since I was a little kid. I don't know, but I think I learned through the road when I've been since Madrid. I mean, as a little kid, I had pressure, I think. So I think you just grow there. You learn game by game, practice by practice.
No face, no case.
You recently won a bet with one of your teammates, Jalen Brunson, over a video game challenge you guys had. Can you please explain to America what happened?
So we played FIFA. The bet was if he loses, he gotta wear a Cowboy jersey because he's an Eagles fan,
It wasn't just that you made him wear a Cowboys jersey. Luka, what did the nameplate on the back of the jersey say?
Luka's son. I had to put some fun in it, make me proud.
What a performance. That's legendary stuff right there. Doncic pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Doncic wins the game at the buzzer!
You were phenomenal in the bubble. In the playoffs against the Clippers, you had that double overtime 43-point masterpiece. But you guys still lost the series. What did you take away from that?
It was my first playoff series. Fun basketball, a lot of emotions. I'm proud of what we did back there. We fought and, we gave everything that we could.
Luka Doncic is going to win the MVP.
He will be the undisputed best player on that team.
You and I have talked about the fact that you want to win MVP. It's one of your goals. Las Vegas odds makers have said you are actually the favorite to win MVP this year. Do you think that you can do it?
I think I can do it, but, that's not my first goal. Far from it. It's great to see that. My goal is always to win a championship. That's, I think, not just mine, the whole organization goal. And, hopefully, some days we can achieve it.
All right, up next on The Jump, Richard Jefferson, Robert Horry are going to make picks for each and every Christmas Day matchup. Thanks to Luka for...
Also one of the biggest days of the year for sneakers. And this year we're going to see all kinds of exciting sneakers worn around the league on Christmas Day. Starting with Jordan Brand, last year they looked to refresh their roster of players and they signed Zion Williamson, Luka Doncic, and Jason Tatum all at once. All three of those guys will be wearing the Air Jordan 35 this year, which has Jordan's new Eclipse plate technology. We're going to see Luka Doncic debut a new White Maps colorway. We're going to see Jason Tatum clash a little bit with the classic Celtics colors. He's going to be celebrating his St. Louis Cardinals red hat that he always wears. So his Jordan 35 is going to have red all over. And then Zion Williamson loves to celebrate the Bayou Boys, which is kind of the nickname of all the young guns on the Pelicans team. So he has an alligator crack buckled shoe. This year for Stephen Curry will be exciting because not only is he back on the court, but he's also got his new Curry brand launching this fall. So he's going to be wearing the red and white Curry 8, which is going to be the Chinese New Year colorway releasing in a couple weeks. For Puma, they're having a little fun this year. They've got the white and black, which is called the ebony and ivory colorway of the RS Dreamer, which is a collaboration with J. Cole. But then we're going to see also one of everybody's favorite Christmas movies come to life with the Elf collaboration of the Puma All-Clyde Pro. We're also going to see Kawhi Leonard lace up on Christmas Day in his first signature shoe with New Balance, the Kawhi 1. When it comes to Nike, we're going to see guys like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Giannis all in their latest signature shoes. But we're also going to see Paul George in the PG4, which takes on a fun red velvet colorway, which plays off of Sansa's suit. And then last but not least, I think everybody across the board would agree this is the best Christmas shoe of all time. Nike's going to be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Grinch Kobe 6 that Kobe first debuted back in 2010. So we're going to see guys like Anthony Davis headlining these, and probably a handful of players on every team across the league wearing the Grinch Kobe 6s on Christmas Day. For real-time sneaker updates, you can follow me on Twitter at NickPaula, and to read more footwear features from the ESPN team and I, you can check out theundefeated.com.